Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Rockin' Beards. My name is Sid.
My name is... You know my name, guys. I don't have to say it for you. I'm too fucking cool for y'all.
And my name is Christen.
It's HSR. I was just trying to be like this asshole over here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, before we jump up into this episode, we got
So happy I got to do that.
housekeeping stuff to do quick. For all of you super fans that are here, just bear with us. We're just experiencing this album, some of us maybe even for the first time. We're going to talk about it track by track. I hadn't even really thought about it when we picked it, so just keep that in mind. This is like a fresh look at the album, you super fans who have listened to it more than me. So yeah, just to like, not to make fun or whatever, but just to give you that perspective, because sometimes people expect a certain thing when they come here, and I want to manage your expectations. Go through it, have a little discussion, and then sum up our feelings at the end. You can always skip ahead to whatever you want. In the description, you'll see the full itinerary of this lengthy conversation we're about to have. I want to give a quick shout out to our patrons, Mozart, Lindell Williams, and the new homeboy, Super Old School 1994. And we'll talk more about that at the end.
What a great name.
I
love your name, man.
It is an awesome name. We're going to be saying it a lot, so I guess we'll get used to it. We'll see how we feel later. I still like it. It's awesome. I just like all three of those names. They're the fucking best names right now. Anyway, I do love all the comments. I answer everybody. And our favorite comment from last week's video, which was on, I guess, sandwiched in between two interesting albums, the opposite of all that.
Don't say that to a guy who clearly loves the album.
He's a cool guy. On Limp Bizkit's Chocolate Starfish and the Hot Dog Flavored Water. Yes, that is what we talked about. I was so happy. DJ Dream Big. He's awesome. You know, he really is. Like he like retweets everything we fucking post. He's the shit.
Thank you.
So he's like the only guy who really tweets me. If you want, you can tweet me at HSR514. But I'm a Boston Red Sox fan. But Fred made me want a red Yankees hat. That's some loyalty right there. I appreciate it. I'm with you, man. I'm with the Fred team, sort of. I mean, I don't necessarily like Fred the person, but I like Limp Bizkit the band.
I'm on the Fred Durst team.
All right.
How was my Fred Durst impression?
It was funny.
Good.
He still owns this album today. I don't. I checked. Of my favorite from Limp Bizkit, My Way. It's a great song. Rollin', pretty great song. My Generation, fantastic song. Full Nelson, I'm going to have to disagree with you on that. We talked about it at length, but his chorus was just not intimidating.
Was that on this album?
Yeah, it was. We talked about it.
Oh, my God. I've already forgotten it.
It was the you'll get knocked the fuck out one.
I mean, you clearly saw the video. You understood that I'm not a fan.
And for those of you that are here, we're not here to talk about this band. We know. This is just the intro part that we do to show you that we freaking read your comments because we want your comments and I want to hear what you have to say. It's so important.
And thank you for checking out the video.
Absolutely. And Christen will also answer. She shows up. It usually is about a 6-day waiting period, and then she appears. And
6-day waiting.
But she'll be there.
I appear.
Anyway, so I think we can get into it. It's going to be a lengthy one, I believe. Sid, why don't you introduce the album we are talking about?
Today we are doing the one, the only, the great Antichrist Superstar by Marilyn Manson.
That's true. Okay, so for the context portion of the show where we equate how much we like or know the album, Sid, why don't you tell us how much you know this album?
I used to know this album inside out and backwards. I don't listen to it as much anymore because, you know, you can only listen to an album so many times before you have to move on and start listening to other albums. But I think this album hit me like I started listening to Marilyn Manson when I was like 11 or 12. Sweet Dreams was on the radio and I fucking loved it. Found out it was a cover, was like, what the fuck? And then,
oh my gosh, yes, that happened to me too.
Yeah, right? But then you're like, okay, so I'm curious to hear what his own music sounds like. And then, fuck, man, I listened to this album, and it's just, it's something else. The first listen through this album is something else.
Yep.
I think whoever you are, it leaves an impression. I'll leave it at that, because I really do love this album, but talk about it more in a bit.
So, when we last talked about Marilyn Manson on Heaven Upside Down, Sid was actually criticized for comparing that album to this album far too often, according to the people.
We'll get into that, too.
But, yeah, he was, anyway, so Sid is a definite fan. Christen, how about you?
Once again, I didn't know it before. I've heard of it, and I've probably heard songs from it. I mean, from my dad listening to it too. But I just
Your dad is cool.
my
He
dad
listens
is
to
very
Marilyn
cool.
Manson.
Yes, but I just haven't really. I don't know. I haven't listened to it, so this is a new experience for me.
Fair. So after we did Heaven Upside Down, I hit play on the first 4 or 5. I think I went as far as Mechanical Animals. I didn't get to Hollywood. So I listened to Portrait of, I listened to the EP Smells Like Children, I listened to Antichrist Superstar. And when I say listen, I mean I literally listened one time through all of them, plus some stuff.
So it's important to remember that
That's before they made it Hearts and then made it Plus again on Spotify.
hold into that. But it's important to remember that Portrait of an American Family and Smells Like Children were Marilyn Manson, the band, right? And I think this is where it really became Marilyn Manson, the personality. They were still the band, Marilyn Manson.
When you
Tweeter,
like
Ramirez,
really look into the interviews and stuff, I don't know. That's a blurred line. It seems like it was kind of almost always because you know what maybe changed was Trent Reznor's involvement over time and the relationship between him and Manson or something.
It really changed on Eat Me, Drink Me, which wouldn't be for another decade.
Okay. I don't know enough about that, to be honest, but I do know that everything made it sound like it was kind of Manson-y from the very jump, even if it was a whole band effort. And I also feel like most of the band is pretty much the same dudes, with a couple of lineup changes up until
this, I think.
Right. But
I
like
could
this
be
album
wrong.
is pretty much still like whatever.
Yeah.
And I might look, guys. I know there's Wikipedia, and I looked, and I can't remember everything I read there. But like, yeah. So I know Manson because I grew up in fucking the 2000s, and I remember when Golden Age of Grotesque dropped, and all those singles came, and all the I knew all the singles, right?
Yeah.
And then I remember I didn't know anything, and I couldn't care less for the longest time. And then we reviewed Heaven Upside Down, and so I did buy his greatest hits album, Lest We Forget, because I felt like before YouTube, that was the best way to really get to know an artist, is to buy their like greatest hits album. And I did that with Green Day and a few others, and it really helped me get a sense of a lot of different sounds. And like, I would not love Lunchbox if it wasn't for that. That's probably
a great song.
I think right now, I would say it might be my favorite Marilyn Manson song. And that's weird, because last time I said it was This Is the New Shit, and since then I've moved to Lunchbox. There you go. I feel like I've evolved as a Manson fan.
You will find out what my favorite Marilyn Manson song is tonight on this album.
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't really know him until we did Heaven Upside Down, but I kind of fell for him in a sense. Like, I love that album, but it made me want to go back and hear this golden era of Manson, because the comments were a little bit divided. Some loved it, some didn't. I was just like, that's cool. I want more. And I'm excited. Anyway, now I'm rambling, I guess. I don't know enough to talk the way I'm going to talk. I like this album cover. It's just like
You wanna
the kind of like side of his face.
Yeah.
It's very
It's creepy.
portraity. It's very like whatever. It's non-distinct, but almost really distinct at the exact same sign. You've got like the circle, and it's got like malice, heart, complacent, and mind in different directions. I'm certain that means something, and if I'd Googled it, I would know. I know that his pianist was into Kabbalah or whatever, the
Jewish Madonna
like
thing.
really into that shit. And so a lot of their like symbolism and stuff is, I think, related to that. But I don't know enough about that to comment on it.
But what I really like about this album cover is like, and especially in 1995, right? Like Marilyn Manson was coming up, and he was starting to get recognition as like the poster boy for like evil and Satanism and Satan worshiping in the mainstream, and he's getting into kids' heads and yada yada yada. And like, there's nothing. You look at this cover, and there's really nothing overtly Satanist.
Well, I mean, he has a zombie-esque eye rolling up.
Yes, there's fantastical elements to it. It looks very dark.
No, I mean that one. You can see his eye rolling up. I'm saying that is a little bit. Ooh.
little
but there's
bit,
no
but it's
there's
not.
no crosses.
No,
there's
but
no
it does
overt
kind of look
religious-
like you know, like in that Exorcism when the demons and shit. It kind of looks a little bit like
sure,
that.
happens in Supernatural all the time.
But we're
That's on the
talking
CW.
about '96.
I know,
And
but
there
that's
was
what
no
I'm saying.
CW
Right?
there.
There was this backlash of like, and it's like people
But
really didn't
I
understand.
think
They
it
looked
was
at it
more
for
the
first
live
time.
performances than
It was a combination of
because
things.
from what I saw him a little bit interview watching and shit, it had a lot more to do with the stuff like him actually ripping the Bible pages, dressing up like the Pope in Italy.
Yeah.
And it was more of his cutting himself with like light bulb. That kind of stuff was a little bit more.
You got
I
to
think.
remember too, this guy parties like a rock star.
Yeah, my favorite
So-
Marilyn Manson quote of all time is most definitely, "The reason I don't get sick is because I do so much drugs, and the drugs kill the germs, so I never get sick, and that's why I'm healthier." We're talking old man, like within the last few years, Manson said that. It is amazing. That
He
is
does
my
not
favorite.
look healthy. I'm sorry. Anyway,
But yeah, so Antichrist Superstar, it's partly because this album's a little bit inspired by a dream, but also a spoof on Jesus Christ Superstar. That I learned today. I didn't know that till like I was 2/3 of the way through the review.
Jesus Christ, Superstar.
Did you know that that's a song from like when Judas Iscariot is dead as a ghost mocking Jesus for his choice to come back in time?
Andrew Lloyd Webber is a fucked up dude.
He's amazing.
I'd never seen the movie
Yes.
before, and I read that today. I was like, I got a little tangent in on Jesus Christ Superstar because I was like, what is the plot to this?
Time
It
to
is a
watch it.
fucked up plot. Anyway,
It's kind of like an irresponsible hate anthem.
yeah. Right. So, before we all jump into this is the best use of an N-bomb by a white person I think I've encountered in my life. I'm going to start it there.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take the position that I can defend his use of the word or not. It's not my place. But as a white dude hearing this, it's the first time I felt like it wasn't aimless. It was like a very deliberate thing that really fit the theme of the greater art project he was creating given the context of 1996.
I mean, he's essentially saying everybody's someone else's bitch. Right?
Yes.
That's what he's essentially saying.
And he was taking it from like pulling from a cultural reference to something else, and like because he was inspired by some shit, and it all made sense in context. It would totally not be an okay thing for him to do in 2018. I think.
I don't think it was an
No.
okay thing for him to do back then, but I think that's the point.
But I think that there's that context where he's pushing the boundaries of censorship with his work, and that's like the only time I think it's the pass I would give, if ever there was, in the context and the frame of what he's done here. It's surprisingly interesting, even if it's not my place or whatever to say that. I just thought it was an interesting use of the word.
I think that even today, with the way that we're more accepting with what goes on TV and what happens in movies and what happens in music, we are less willing to push censorship boundaries than we were, and especially now.
But
with like,
I think that
PC
there's a
movement.
little bit of
Yeah.
a difference between the social norms that we're fighting, which isn't mandated and regulated by a government, and the literal government social norms. Because what Marilyn Manson was kind of trying to do with this movement was prove democracy's freedom of speech, right?
Yeah.
He was testing it, and now I don't know that I would never say the word and I wouldn't sing along with it, like it's not like whatever, but it's the first time I heard it, and in context of everything he was trying to do, I was like, I don't know that there was a better word to piss people off enough to have the conversation starting.
and it's funny because with all of the controversy you hear that happened through Marilyn Manson's career, you don't hear about this song, right? And like this song is a single.
I mean, it was apparently not a popular move. I asked a couple black folk that I knew to like be like, "Yo, not to say that they represent the whole people, but yo, were people like mad about this? Because like I don't know." And like, yeah, we were mad about this, and that's the general feedback I got when I asked around a bit. So I was like, okay, I guess Manson was not given any passes at any point for this. Anyway, let's talk about the song. That was my tangent at the beginning. I just thought it was interesting. I would actually, before we go into it, love to know your feelings on that. Do you feel like it would be cool for him to do it today? Like, how do you feel about the use of this word to push censorship? To me, that would be a really interesting
If you don't know
thing.
what we're talking about, listen to the song.
Oh, well, just fucking do it.
Look up the lyrics.
It's
The lyrics. It's very prominent in the chorus. of
we're
the
gonna go
song.
through it. I fucking tell you as soon as I can fucking find it, because I think I've got the wrong. My phone sometimes doesn't like to cooperate, but everybody is somebody.
Can you say it?
No, I'm not gonna say the word. I just can't find the word I like. But
Everybody's someone else's.
yeah,
I know you are, so am I.
yeah.
He wasn't born with enough middle fingers.
There you go.
He doesn't need to choose a side.
Yeah,
Drums, 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 drums. I love this song.
perfect. I don't know why I didn't write that down. That's fucking ridiculous. I wrote down like every other lyric in the fucking song but that one. But yeah, so in the context of what he's trying to be here, like, so this is an irresponsible hate anthem. It's our introduction to the world, right? Because you all know it's a concept album, but for those who don't, it's a concept album where originally this is supposed to be the start of the story. Manson may have changed his mind later on, and this is the end of the story. I don't care. In my understanding of things, it's still the beginning.
This isn't the end of the story. It's the middle.
I don't know. But for me,
it goes,
I haven't heard the other two yet.
Mechanical Animals, and then Hollywood is a prequel.
That's not what I read on the internet today. And
the internet is wrong.
So that's my point. I'm going to have to listen to them all to give you my opinion. But for now, this is the first part of the story. And we'll understand the story better as it goes on. I think for now, it's just interesting to understand the context of what's being brought here, right? So, like... even before that, do you know in the liner notes of this song, it said it was recorded live, because I think it was a live recording.
But it says it was recorded live in the future, right?
In the future.
Yeah.
And,
but that's why they had, I guess, the audience sound at the beginning.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of that comes back on this record, right? Like, it's part of the theme. Because the story is about a rock star.
But Manson happens to talk a lot, right? So, like... He talks a lot. Our keyboardist has computer with a lot of old Hebrew Kabbalism and numerology complicated equations that only he understands. But that, combined with extreme drug abuse, has given us the ability to capture and record things from different eras. We recorded Impossible Hate Anthem in February of next year. Marilyn Manson. So there you go. They were high.
Drugs.
And drugs in Hebrew texts.
Yeah.
But then you get into the lyrics, and it's a commentary on, I guess, the state of the world, culturally speaking.
Which most of this record is.
Now, what I thought was fascinating is the timeless nature of this album thus far since it dropped, right?
Yeah.
I'm so all-American. I'd sell you suicide. I am totalitarian. I've got abortions in my eyes. I hate the hater. I'd rape the raper. I am the animal who will not be himself. And
Fuck it.
But if you really take that a step back and just really consider what he's trying to convey there, he's capturing these social justice warriors of 1996. They didn't have a word for it then, but that's kind of what I think he's trying to describe.
There's another song that does it better that happens later on this record.
Yeah, but...
We'll get into it. This one's a little more general.
Hey, victim, should I black your eyes again? Now just think about that, because it's kind of like... Take any situation that we come across where there are victims these days and a group is marginalized or whatever, there always seems to be that pious person willing to bash them in the... I've literally seen people call for the death of all policemen, and then when pointed out that would create havoc in poor communities, creating murder, they said, so be it. It needs to be done for the betterment of everyone. You know, when you really see those kinds of attitudes that I've honestly seen it on Facebook, it's probably still out there if people hunt, you know, it really is kind of what Manson's conveying. So, even though he's the villain in his eyes and the media's eyes, he seems to be speaking some interesting truth that the good guys don't really seem to know. Just saying.
I mean, a lot of this record, as much as it's heavy and loud and angry, it's common sense with swear words.
Yeah. But I think it's also satirical criticism.
Yes.
Because it's directly... And if you look at what happened, it's almost like this is the Trump America that he's talking about in 96, right? Everybody... Oh, yeah, I did write it down. I just didn't know where it was. So I found that, and the chorus comes in. I better not say this. I better not tell. I better not say this. Better not tell.
I missed a couple of betters.
Whatever. I hate the hater, rape the raper. I am the idiot who will not be himself.
Fuck it.
And that's so interesting, right? Because people, it's almost like you're not allowed to say these things because there's consequences or whatever, but instead you're allowed to go and do these. To quote Kanye West, they say they can rap about anything except for Jesus. That means sucks, guns, sex, lives, videotapes, but if I talk about God, my record won't get played. I mean, I think there's a really interesting comparison between the Kanye sentiment there and what he's trying to convey over here. You just can't... Anyway. I thought it was super fucking interesting. And then, of course, America cannot see anything. History was written by the winner. Of course, right? It's just the truest thing ever. I mean, if you really look at the pride of certain folk when they don't understand the context of, 300... If I'm not even mistaken, they don't really talk about how we burned down the White House in the Battle of 1812. That isn't really talked about a lot in American history classes, that Canadians did that.
Bad people.
That's why it's a White House now, because of Canadians.
Could you have said that any more like a bondage queen?
It's totally fair.
We're just bad people.
Listen, Canada's a fun country.
Oh my god.
But Anyway, all I have to say, fucking great song. The energy though, it's just like Sid can talk all about the sounds that are used, but he has like this versatile way of singing where he can encapsulate you into this thing. But the first time you hear it, this one's pretty clean. I felt it really easy to get into, but like it's still a little jarring, and you don't really come to like. It takes like 3-4 listens easy before it starts to like sink in, and you really start to like appreciate how intricate and interesting the song is. It's more than just the expression of energy. It's like a well-calculated machine. It's not quite Lateralis, but it's still pretty fucking good.
It's definitely not Lateralis. But I mean,
4.5
really
on 5.
Raw, right?
4. I love it.
It's really like, and that's what a lot of this record is. It's really raw. It's that rock and roll animal like that really like captures the whole essence of that style of music, right? Like he's not a good singer, but he's a charismatic singer.
He's also versatile as fuck.
He's versatile to a point. Like, he wouldn't be able to go on stage and sing Aretha Franklin, right?
Yeah,
or
but
the Fantastics, or even
he's
anything by
versatile
heart.
within himself.
Yeah, sure. And he can convey a lot of different emotions. But
which is already points,
he
man.
very much had... Mad respect. He very much has his own style, and he's perfected it. Even here, I think he's perfected, and this is very early on in his career. But this song really encapsulates a lot of the vibe of the record, that like raw, power chord driven, very atonal, very industrial.
I feel like you feel his aesthetic through his voice.
Yeah,
you can see him there.
Yeah, exactly. I love the way that it starts off like a live concert, and they're just chanting that we hate love, we love hate, which is, it's such a teenage thing to chant, but it works, right? And it's a sentiment that I think is very rock and roll, as much as it's a quote by Nietzsche.
But it's also like the premise of everything that we're about to hear.
Yeah.
It's almost like a very important thing to hear.
It's very important, and it's very deliberate. Everything on this album is absolutely deliberate. The one point that I'm going to take off is the chorus is just a little uncomfortable to listen to.
I don't know.
I
don't agree.
You didn't give it a perfect grade.
Yeah, because I felt that it was a little rough around the edges and not 100% my vibe. It's a little like, this is like, so like, I feel like with music, I've come to have 2 lanes. There's shit I really fucking love, and I want to put that shit on, and I want to abuse it. And then there's shit I really admire, and I want to put that on a shelf and put it on sometimes. When I put that shit on, it's amazing. And this is definitely in that second category. I could not listen to this every day. But when I listen to this, I don't think I'm ever going to like it less. I think every time I hear this project, I will like it more and more and more and more. So it's not a perfect song to me, but it's an amazing song to me still, you know?
4.5 on 5.
We agree, apparently.
Well, I think it was a good, I mean, it was as an intro, because I haven't listened to this right, and at the beginning even I didn't realize it was a concept album until I looked it up, and it was like, oh, well, that makes a lot of sense, because after a while it was like, what is going on? And I mean, I listened to it, like I had said previously, on a Monday morning, like early in the morning, because that's when I had time, and that gave it a whole different feel than listening to it at the end of a day. But I really liked, I disagree with you. I like the fuck it.
I love that.
It's not your
that's
you,
not
you
what
were
I was
like,
talking
oh,
about.
that's
No,
really...
the chorus is where he drops the
the
word.
chorus, yeah. No, that's true.
But man,
Sorry.
I really think the lines, I don't have enough middle fingers.
Yeah.
It's one
That
of
was
the,
my MSN screen name for weeks.
like, I think
heard this song for the
it's
first
like
time.
literally one of the greatest little lines of that spirit I've heard ever.
Yeah, he used to
Because
be really
the following line is to imply he doesn't have to pick sides in your petty bullshit.
Yeah.
Because he can't. He only has 2 fingers to give a fuck with. That's not enough to care about all the things. Anyway, y'all get it. Go on.
4.5 as an opening.
As an opening. What
Yeah.
about as a non-opening?
As a non-opening, around the same. I mean, I feel like
Would it be like a 4.6 or like a 4.4?
4.4. I feel like this album is like what you said. It takes a while to get into it. I feel like it's
Yeah.
not one of those.
It's funny. I really thought you were gonna like this one more than.
Yeah, I thought so too. When I first like kind
I
of
knew
just
I was
scrolled
gonna like
through
it.
it, I was like, oh, this is really great. But like when I really gave it the first full listen, it was like, okay, wait a minute.
Honestly, I have to confess that when I played the album for the first time, it was at work, and I was like, oh, fuck, the Manson fans are going to hate me. Because I thought it was going to be like bad.
but
But
that's
then
I know
the
it's
second
not
time,
necess-
I listened to it at work still. it was like, wow, this is a lot better. Because there's that thing where when you hear music that's unfamiliar to you,
Yeah.
like,
But like I knew you would love it lyrically. Like I knew you would love it
but I like it
lyrically.
sonically.
I knew it would take you a couple listens to like. But for Christen, this is more your style.
I think
like,
that
this
the
is,
vocals are like fucking fantastic, and that's one thing
So
that is
good.
my style for sure. I think it just takes time to get into. That's basically what it is.
It's so good.
But it's still great.
Y'all are beautiful people. The subject of Manson covers, which this is not, but just because it came up. What is your favorite Manson cover? I'm gonna have to go with.
Painted.
No, not. I mean, you can go with that.
Suicide is pain.
There we go. I wanted to go with Suicide with Painless, but I'm also really into that other one off of the Children album that I fucking should know the name of. The Sweet Dreams. Sweet Dreams is fucking epic. But then so is Suicide is Painless. Anyway, what's your favorite Manson cover? And
Did you ever watch MASH?
MASH is
When are
good.
we reviewing 11 seasons of MASH?
We're not doing that.
Aw.
I'm just vetoing that. But maybe one day. How about this? If we'll
No,
put
but
it as a
yes.
Patreon goal, maybe as a joke,
Listen,
for $100 a month or some
Mozart,
bullshit.
Lindell, super old school 1994. I know you guys are with me on this. Start requesting MASH. We'll fucking do it. Alan Alda and his quips.
Okay, let's go back to the beautiful people. So, fun fact: I didn't know what steeple was until today.
Like what a steeple was? Like a
Well,
church steeple?
But then it's also a double entendre for dick.
Yeah, but I
But
mean,
I didn't know any of that till today because I never cared before, and then I looked
weren't
it
you
up.
like super religious as a kid?
Yeah, but like not
Exactly.
Steeple?
not in that kind of church. That's Catholics and
To
shit.
know the
It's like
architecture.
Protestant Open Brethren. That's where like you're in a basement and it's all like done. Anyway, it's not the same
That's a
thing.
cult.
No, it's not. No, I mean like Christianity is really vast, and most things that aren't Catholic don't look like that. Anyway, Anyway, so yeah, I learned about that. This song is kind of more where I think we really get into the story. So like the last album was to kind of paint the picture of the world, and now we're going to interact with like our protagonist meeting all the shallow vein, beautiful people. And this song's just kind of contextualizing those people, you know, like
It's all anatomic as the size of your steeple.
which is basically he's saying you have a small dick,
Yeah.
which is
But
amazing.
it's that line, you can't see the forest. Fuck, God damn it, stupid pop filter. You
can't
can't see the forest
forest
for the
full of-
trees, and you can't smell your own shit on your knees. Like, it's so iconic.
It's true, but
It's-
the song is actually preceded with some backwards guitar effects and electronic noise. There's a lot of backmasking on this album. It includes a heavily distorted spoken sample by Tex Watson declaring, "We would swoop down on the town and kill everyone that wasn't beautiful." Now, I didn't know that
that's
because to
nice.
me that was just... You know, like I never even realized that. So thankfully now I know that. And then, you know, lyrically, I don't want you, I don't need you, don't bother to resist or I'll beat you. It's not your fault that you're always wrong. The weak ones are there to justify the strong. And it's almost like the perspective. I always took that like it's the perspective of the beautiful people and how they treat the outcasts, the people who didn't really fit in. And having been more on the Marilyn Manson side of life growing up, I always liked this song a lot. It felt really nice to have that kind of relatability to
It's
it.
a really good song. And what it does, too, is really cool, is it takes the, like, really dirty, disgusting industrial metal that, like, White Zombie and Ministry were doing in the late 80s and early 90s and makes it, like, almost super accessible. Like, it gives it
Yeah, this
musicality and, like, almost melody.
like I'm pretty certain that this is one of the songs that even people who wouldn't listen to Manson could still feel, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it comes on at bar. Like, this is a bar song.
Yeah. And then like, you know, the beautiful people, it's all relative to the size of your dick. We're just gonna say
Steeple.
dick. You can't see the
People's
forest,
people to
but honestly,
listen
no.
has made it
The
this
can't
way.
see the forest full of for the trees, and you can't smell your own shit. It's just like you can't see what's in front of your face, bro. It's like you're so caught up in the vanity of your life and your existence that you can't even appreciate the real beauty and stuff. And I can't say that as a culture and a people we've really progressed a lot in that direction. I'd say vanity is maybe even, in some regards, like you don't wear a suit, but you still have a uniform you must wear in life.
I'd say vanity is expanded in its definition,
Yeah.
but it's still very much present in our culture.
But yeah, and then what I never realized he was saying before, which is a couple of moments I had, there's no time to discriminate. Hate every motherfucker that's in your way. I've met so many people who like joke about like that kind of mentality though, and pretend like it's okay to be racist and like a real misogynistic asshole because like they make fun of everyone equally. And I feel like Manson here is going, that's stupid. That's kind of what he's making fun of here. He's pointing that out. Like, this is the kind of ideology of it, you know? And I'm like, I agree with you, Manson. It is stupid. Because keep in mind, this is him, like, satirically criticizing these beautiful people and their behaviors. And
I feel like he's also saying, I hate everyone equally.
I don't know, man.
Because that's a very metal mentality, right? Like, even Slayer, I hate everyone equally. You can't tear that out of me. No segregation, separation, just me and my world of enemies.
I honestly think Manson's making fun of that mentality because Manson seems to actually care about people in light of this, right? And if you listen
you can care about people and still be an introvert and not want to see people, right? Like, it's that.
But I feel like it's more that he has been victimized, bullied, and pushed to the side as a social outcast by these beautiful people, right? Who glorify hate. And in the culture, we glorify this hate, and it's okay to hate the ugly, and it's okay. I mean, I remember having glasses in the 90s. It wasn't the same thing like 2018. People were still mean about it back then, you know? Like, shit is not... Like, you know, I kind of don't feel that Manson's vain and egotist and has a godlike complex, but I don't know that he's full of hate like that. I think it's satire, and I might be wrong, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong. I'm open to that. Maybe Sid's right.
But I think it's I don't think Slayer hates everyone. You know what I mean when they say that line. But I think it's a way of saying treat people equally. Like, if you're gonna hate on one group for something...
And I agree, like, when Slayer, from a point of probable intellect, made that point, sure, but when Joe Blow down the street does it to be funny, it's not the same thing. Usually it's an excuse to justify shit behavior, whereas Slayer may be making a critical point. I don't know when Slayer even released that song.
6 years after this.
So, I don't know, but I'm saying that maybe there was a point to be made at that point.
Listen, honey.
Anyway.
You're gonna be mimicking me. Do it right.
That's fine. So yeah, I mean that's kind of as an interesting line to me. You can take what you want from it. I don't know. You can have opinions too if you have any. Then, you know, hey you, what do you see? Something beautiful, something free, the objectification of people, all that bullshit. Hey you, are you trying to be mean?
You live with apes, man. It's hard to be clean.
But that's what I think he's pointing out. Like, it's again, like, why are you choosing to be a fucking asshole because you're a beautiful person? And I see that a lot more than people want to admit. And that's kind of, I think. And the excuse is, well, hey, everyone else is doing it, so I can do it too. So I really do think it's the satirical making fun of that. People look for the... I never caught this before. This was a mind fuck earlier, like when I was doing this shit. And then, the second verse comes in, and, you know, I never realized that capitalism has made it this way. Old-fashioned fascism will take it away. Wasn't necessarily a criticism on capitalism as much as it was on the way people seem to be blaming capitalism for it and are taking on a fascist tactic to replace it.
Yeah.
I never caught that before. I thought he was just like, whatever. I'm like, Manson, he knew what was coming. Like, this guy saw what the next 20 years of life was going to be like,
well, but
dude.
that's what this album is about. It's about the coming of the third.
But it's also about Marilyn Manson, because it's always about him at the same time.
But the story is the prediction that Nostradamus made of the three Antichrist figures, right? There was...
I don't know that yet, because I know that this one album is kind of a little bit more about Manson and his feelings about the state of things. Maybe it...
But it's about a character who becomes the Antichrist.
At this point, but no, he doesn't become the Antichrist. He becomes something else. He has a name in the lore of fucking whatever.
The worm.
Yeah, no, it's the Disfigurer or some shit like that.
But that's it. It was a prediction that Nostradamus made.
I get that, but it's also at the exact same time about Brian.
Absolutely. All music is personal.
No, but I mean, that's what I think is super clever, because everything that parallels that thing parallels his life.
But in the context of the story, what I'm saying is that those lines are coming from that specific prediction of these three characters. Hitler was one of them. I don't remember who the second one was.
I mean, maybe.
Please help me, internet. You know what I'm talking about.
But yeah, if you do, like, I don't know. I feel like at this point, this particular track is really about vanity and like that kind of thing. And I think that
it fits. It's
the
overall
part
of the story, right?
The overall story arc can fit that, yeah. But I don't think, because you know what the thing is, Manson and his friends never confirmed any of the theories. So everything people think is theories. And I'm just going to throw that out there. That means that all of our conversation here, Brian and friends didn't want us to know the real answers.
I love how you're calling him Brian. Brian Warner.
Yeah.
It's Marilyn
I
Manson's
love
real
it.
name.
It's really awesome.
Well, I have a thing, and it says that the record is a social critique which utilizes the premise as a metaphor for the fascist elements of the conservative movement of the Christian right in North America.
Yeah, that's what the interviews and shit were saying. It was definitely an attack on religion, I think.
Yeah.
I think all the other shit got added after the fact as he built out the lore. Because there's a book he wrote that never got released that is the canon of what actually happened, kind of like a Coheed and Cambria move.
Yeah.
But it never came out. So we're kind of stuck with this, situation. Anyway, this is why this is a good album, man. This is fucking interesting shit. I love this song. It's timeless. I've loved it since I'm like 13. It's a 5. It's probably more than a 5 if I did that, but no.
Is it a single or is it
Oh,
not?
yeah.
Absolutely. I actually
Clearly
don't
good.
remember the video and I didn't watch it.
I didn't watch it
I watched-
either, but
I don't remember it, but
I
this
think
was
it-
absolutely a single.
I
This
think
is-
it
this
was
is like his
full of
biggest song.
totalitarian shit and whatnot and whatever.
well, the intro's fantastic, and I'm gonna use your favorite. It's catchy, but it is. I think like it's one of the songs that I really appreciate a lot, and that I actually went back to a few times, and it's on my playlist because I've been plussing things now. I've been inspired by you to plus things.
It's so good.
Hearts,
No, it's back to pluses.
pluses,
Yeah.
Or check marks or something. I don't know.
check marks.
But the music's great.
it's like an anthem, and it's very like
It's
It is
awesome.
very
The drums are really like
anthem-y.
you can almost picture his drummer though, like
This is
with
the
like the
anthem, throw
straightest
all your
fucking.
hands up.
But do you not get like the picture of him with like the straightest, most rigid arms, like it just.
Oh yeah, That's
you
what
just.
he does.
I mean, it's just fucking crazy. You feel the rigidity and the seriousness of the music. Anyway,
beautiful people.
Also a 5 on 5 from me.
what did you give it?
Well, like originally the first time 4.5, but because I listen to it all the time now, 5.
Okay, so it's a 5.
It is a 5.
All right.
Dried up,
Dried up,
dead
tied,
to the
and
world.
dead to the world. Way less to say on this, so why don't you start, Kristen?
Well, I don't have much to say either. Other than when I was listening to it, it was just kind of there was nothing distinct about it. I don't know, other than the lyrics through reading the lyrics, which you'll probably cover more. But I mean, it feels just more of the same.
Okay. I mean, I kind of felt it was a little bit different. It felt more industrially, if that's a fair
different.
statement. I might be
Yeah.
wrong.
No,
I'm
that
using
actually,
that
that's the right word for it.
because I know Trent Reznor's on it, and when I think industrial, I think Nine Inch Nails. So it might be an unfair association.
Which is fair, because I mean, if you want to classify this music, it fits very neatly.
No, but like this
into the
particular
category of
song
industrial
No, but
more
there's
so
that
than the
sound.
other ones. Like that machinery almost feeling sounds like this feels more on the like I don't know, it feels less like a band and more like an experience at this point, And some songs are really like that
It's
on this
like
album.
no, but-
Eraser. Or Erase Me, Eraser, 9 Inch Nails. It's that same sound, the exact
Okay.
same sound. You know it.
Yeah.
Probably. No, I'm trying to
Probably.
remember.
And
I listened to Nine Inch Nails
so
in a
yeah,
long time.
apparently in his book though, Manson states that this is an anthem for the city of New Orleans, the city that Antichrist Superstar was recorded in, and these lines in general point out the shallow and desperation he saw coursing through the veins of the city.
Take that, Wheezy.
But
I didn't mean it. I love you, Wheezy.
But yeah, if you look at the lyrics, it's like you cut off all your fingers, trade them in for dollar bills, cake on some makeup to cover those lines, wake up and grab a brush and wake up and stop shaking because you're just wasting time. And, in general, it just kind of has that vagrant feel of like shallowness, like people doing aimless, stupid things to like fit into some kind of cultural norm or whatever, and people are like, whatever, you're almost exhausted. Like I was just watching Bob's Burgers, and there's that episode where he goes and parties with all the young chefs, and then he's fucking wrecked and he can't keep up, and he's doing all this to be cool, but it makes him a bad chef. And I feel like Marilyn Manson's is kind of painting that kind of desperation, like fit in and chase those shits,
He's also Archer.
Yeah, he is. You take but cannot be given. You ride but cannot be ridden. Pinch this tiny heart of mine. Wrap it in soiled twine. You never read what you've written. That last line, though, think about Twitter. He didn't know Twitter was coming, guys. And then you really think about Twitter and how people just kind of like the idea you just whatever. You never read what you've written. You just say whatever you want. The words you just process. Blah blah blah. And you
Anything
don't
when
even
they're
care.
hot.
And I'm super guilty of this as a younger person. Hell, go to my older podcast. You'll fucking see me acting like a fucking idiot with my mouth a lot more. But the idea that you take you know, but you can't like give anything, you know. It's just this personality trait he's describing, you know. And then the chorus, I'll be your lover, I'll be forever, I'll be tomorrow, I am anything when I'm high. And then it really ties it together, because you got to imagine in Manson circles there's a lot of cocaine and a lot of vanity, and he seems to be like the kind of drug user that can do it. Not the kind of productive stoner type that like he can live his whole life high and still be a productive human being. He's proven that. Whereas most people...
He's done some pretty fucking stupid things.
Absolutely. But like, whereas most people aren't doing it for the same reasons he's doing it, you know? They're doing it to follow trends. I know a lot of people who do coke because other people do coke. It's not about like they're doing it to be part of the crowd.
Yeah.
Whereas Manson is doing it because he's a fucking hedonist.
I mean, at the end of the day, you do drugs because you're addicted, right?
Yeah, of course. Or you believe it's going to feel like they abuse drugs to produce sounds and
whatever
shit like
reason you start doing drugs turns into
it's not the
addiction,
reason
right? And this is firsthand experience.
Yeah.
This is not like I'm not. My friend did drugs, and you get like no, like if you know what it feels like, and you know what it feels like to do drugs, then you understand. Eventually, that is something that happens.
I don't know what it feels like to do cocaine, but I know
Do
what
you
it's.
know what it feels like to have a really good cup of coffee?
Yeah.
So there you go.
But I do know what it's like to come down on some other stuff, and I can imagine how addictions get formed to some serious shit real quick.
If you are someone who is addicted to coffee,
I am mad addicted to coffee.
just that times 4 and a lot more expensive.
So, yeah.
Roughly.
I digress. I think this is a fucking cool sound that kind of throws back to that rawness. It feels like Beautiful People's a little bit more poppy, a little more flash and flare. And here we're stripping it back. But the song about vanity and fakeness and all that is like this stripped down, raw, real, rugged experience. I think that was done on purpose. I thought that was super fucking interesting. And I really enjoyed this. I plussed it the first time I heard it. It was one of my, like, when I went through Manson, I don't know, there was some attraction to this rugged sound he has here. 4.5 on 5. It's definitely something when I'm in a mood for it that it's perfect for, even if it's not an everyday type of track.
Yeah. This one is one of my least favorite on the album, personally.
Okay.
I like the sound. It's cool. It's quirky. I like the little samples. I like the chorus. I really like the chorus. Because that is just so... Anyone you've ever met at, like, a rave or, like... really late at night at a bar who's really drunk, like, yeah, I'll be that. I'll be anything when I'm high. You know what I mean? Like, I love you, man.
Yeah.
Like, you're my brother. Like, we just met an hour ago, but like,
yeah,
that's it. That's the mentality. That's the sentiment. Yeah, the rest of the song is like, I like it. It's just not my favorite on the record. So I give it a 4 on 5.
All right, let's talk about.
Wait, no, it's.
I didn't give my rating.
Sorry.
She's got green hair, man.
Cause I know, but she talked earlier and I got confused. Sorry.
Wait, what does my hair have to do with my rating?
Nothing. What's your rating?
4.
What's your rating? 4?
Is that it?
Yeah.
Is that all you have to say?
Yeah.
But she talked earlier. Anyway.
I have spoken.
Tourniquet.
Behold.
Fun fact, Manson wrote this even before Manson was in the Manson and Spooky Kids type Manson. This is like a way back when song.
Whoa, really?
Like lyrically, it's about a heartbreak.
No kidding.
So I also learned that a tourniquet is a particular type of bandage that wraps up a wound that's bleeding out to death and shit.
Yeah.
The more you learn.
It stops your like blood flow.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
In the beginning of the song, before somebody else can go on, an audible back mass vocal can be heard. Again, I didn't know what it said because I didn't even know that he was doing that. This is the lowest point of my vulnerability. Manson claims that was recorded intentionally in the studio while crying and under the influence
of drugs.
Cocaine.
I love the comparison. Like, take your hatred out on me. Make your victim my head. You never ever believed in me. I am your tourniquet. That feeling of just loving someone and wanting to give everything to someone and knowing at the same time that for that person you are just basically a hole filler. Like you're nothing. Like you're there to stem the pain that they're feeling from something else entirely. It's such a raw emotion. Like that's so harsh.
And he expresses it.
He expresses it so well. The expression on this song
is beyond belief.
But like the thing about this track is on the one hand, it's super 90s, right? Like, all the riffs are super 90s. The production is about as 90s sounding as it gets. But on the other hand, like, for me, it still gives me shivers every time I hear this song. Like, this is a 5-on-5, absolutely, like, hands down.
I agree.
I might happen to have given it a 5 also. I'm going to throw it out there. But I think it's like, there's an energy to the way it evolves, right? Like, he's like, the way he does stuff like, hey, like he just like, I don't know how to do it properly because
Marilyn
Marilyn
Manson is the king of vocal fry.
but like, he manages to just kind of destroy himself almost in the take. And then like when he's almost screaming out the lines, I'm your tourniquet, like he just like he breaks, you know, and you feel it. And then the poetry is surprisingly not boring. Like, she's made of hair and bone and little teeth. So she's a person, whatever. Things that cannot speak, which is an interesting idea. Like, people are just kind of made up of a bunch of shit that can't be. Like, all of the pieces that make us up are just normal little things, but still this package created this entity that, you know, whatever, hurt him. She comes on like a crippled plaything, Spanish just a string. I wrapped our love in this foil. You know what else you wrap in foil? Heroin. That's the kind of line. And then you would light it with a little water bullshit. So he's comparing his love to
How to do heroin with behind that suit.
He's comparing his fucking love to heroin here, which is whatever. Silver tight like spider legs. I never wanted it to spoil, but flies lay their eggs. And I love the way he goes. He never wanted it to spoil. Like, he wanted this love to last forever, but when something dies and shit, well, the flies come and lay their eggs, and and you're like, that is like the darkest, most cryptic way I've ever heard of this song being expressed, but it's done in such a unique way where you know you've heard this song on the pop charts a million times, but this is how Manson did it, and he managed to make it fresh as fuck. And, as you said, kind of timeless. Like, this song is still raw and real today. Like I was quite happy to hear this one. Like, prosthetic synthesis with butterfly, sealed up with virgin stitch. Now, apparently, when certain things happen after childbirth, they can re-sew shit up down there to, like, fix it up. So I'm like, Manson, the knowledge and the weird shit you're referencing here that you're forcing me to talk about, I mean, if it hurts, baby, please tell me. And then the idea that he uses baby in the next line to make sure that we're aware while using baby in the double entendre term. Like, it is so well done. Preserve the innocence is the next line. It's so good. It's a 5. Like, it's just... I didn't see the video, but I really want to. I feel like I missed out by not watching the music
video's fine.
videos.
It's nothing... It's just kind of him sitting there rocking back and forth. And I think there's a girl involved. And it's really 90s.
But it also kind of fits the narrative of this story, right? Because if we're in this part, because it's this album's in 3 phases to fit this story.
Yeah, like, he's still a kid here.
But
the character is still young.
I don't think he's like. I think he's a young adult, like, because he's having his first love. He's discovering.
Well, he's the Cryptor child, right? He's not the worm child yet.
No, but I think that's
he's the cocoon.
So, but I think that's more of a personality thing, not a literal age thing. I think that this is more like he's coming in a social sense. He's arrived and he's in this place and he's discovering, let's say in the end of puberty, and you're an adult and you're going into it and you're realizing how fucked up the world really is. Because these are not things you're experiencing as a kid. These are things you'd
First loves? I mean, high school.
Yeah, but it's still not a kid. That's not what I picture when I picture a kid. I was picturing like 5.
Okay, no. But
like 18-ish, 19 I'm picturing.
Something along those lines.
That's what I got. And maybe early 20s even. It's not impossible. It's just that young person realizing how it's the shit that makes you jaded, you know? Like, that's what he's going through. So this is just his experiences with love and shit. And it's all part of this first act where I guess we're supposed to be introduced to the world is corrupt. It's so Holden Caulfield.
The world is a vampire.
No, but if you really think about he's basically calling everyone phonies. Everything... It's a little Catcher in the Rye if you really think about the plot of Antichrist Superstar, but
sure,
he's a little bit, but I like what he's saying here. I'm not disagreeing with Manson. I do disagree a little bit with the Holden Caulfield version of it, and at whatever, but I see the comparisons. Still, I like the plot. I like how it's driven forward. I like the way you're just drawing. Like, you feel like if you've never been bullied or whatever in your life, this is an album that will make you feel like you've gone through the meat grinder a little bit.
Christen.
Oh my God.
I gave it a 4. I gave it a 5. I forgot.
My goodness. No, I would think though, especially if for somebody who can like with his vocal style throughout the album, right? The fact that he can just take a song in the middle and make you feel like 10 times more intense than anything else is really cool. Because again, even like the first time I was scrolling through everything, it was like, okay, oh my God. And I think I like that deserves a 5. And I think the concept too and the lyrics are really solid.
Okay.
I liked it. I did like it.
I appreciate that. So let's move on to Little Horn. This is based on Revelations and the beasts and shit in the end of the world. And one of the beasts is a little horn that grows on other horns or whatever. You can read it. It's in Revelations. Revelations is a sick fucking book. You should just read it because it's a really good read. But yeah.
Or you can watch Supernatural.
I suppose.
Same thing.
I don't know about that. But yeah, so this is actually, it comes from this gnarly dream he had where everybody was zombies and shit in the future. And there was a bunch of like women's in cage and their mouths were taped to not like bite off the dicks of the guys because they're like zombie woman. He's on drugs a lot, you know?
A lot, though.
And like... So, like, all sorts of crazy shit's happening, and it kind of, this was the dream and the song, essentially, that birthed the whole concept for him.
Okay.
So, as much as he's saying it's coming from philosophy and shit after the fact, according to him, it comes from this dream he had and this whole vision of the world and how he was, like, painted into the picture of religion and whatever and his feelings, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so... Little Horn, it's like kind of, I think this is a part of, right before we transition into the next act.
Yeah.
It's almost like he can see the evil bubbling up. There's an apple in the pussy mouth. Terrible lyric. I'm a dinner whore. There's a tumor in the TV mouth. I didn't really do a lot of analyzing on this one.
See, the thing is that, like, on this track, you can kind of hear the types of lyrics that he would start to rely on later that were more shock based than they were clever.
I feel like this is him describing his dream, right?
Yeah.
And that's literally what I think he's doing because he has lines like, someone better get the dog to kick, jaws wired shut to save the dick. Like, that is a direct quote from his dream. Like, we don't have access to the source material, I think, to properly connect to this song. It does paint an interesting and dark world. The world spreads its legs for another star. Yes. The world shows its face for another scar. So I think it is a little precursor because it's saying the world needs this new person that's going to be coming. It's ready for him. So it's serving the purpose and this little horn. So it is a little... Revelations. He's coming in. It's going to be the Antichrist. Evil.
Woo.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Dead will dance for what is left. The worms will wait with bated breath. I guess saying worms is a little foreshadow of what's
bated breath?
Maybe it's bated breath. Your blind have now become ideal. So says the little horn. Everyone will suffer now. You can't save yourself. Kind of, I guess, is projecting a little bit of the end of the world. If you do read Revelations, the world ends and Jesus comes back, saves the Christians, everyone else gets destroyed.
Or if you've seen This Is the End.
And the 144,000 Jews get saved. That's right. The Jews for Jesus are also supposed to get saved. No, sorry, it's not them. It's the Jews who held it down proper and were actual Jews in the modern era. I do love this shit. But 4 on 5 for this song because it's kind of like okay compared to literally everything else on the album. I felt this was the most okay song.
Well, that's it. And the thing is, too, and this is what I was saying before we started recording, right, is that this song is just a lesser version of a couple of other songs that are on this record. Irresponsible Hate Anthem is one of them. And there's another one coming up that's also better than this song, but it musically does the same thing.
Right.
And this is where, like, I see its point. I see its
It
place.
serves its role. It's kind of like when we were...
What's coming next?
Do you remember when we were watching the Orville and you were like, Seth MacFarlane did things to make the plot go forward? That's this song. It feels like forcing the plot forward and to make this prophecy angle of what's to come happen later on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a concept album, right? You have to have some fillers, I guess.
I don't think you do.
You don't
American
have to,
Idiot
but you
has
can.
no filler.
Neither did Welcome to the Black Parade.
No, it doesn't need, but it's
and this one, I think everything else was not filler. So
it's acceptable.
There's a couple of them. I mean...
to me. I don't know. Yeah, this one's a 4.
It's a 4 for me, too.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you have more to...
No, there was nothing significant enough to be like, oh my God, we need to talk about this in great length.
So earlier in the podcast, Sid called this Cryptorchid.
Let's point it out.
Sorry,
it's actually Cryptorchid.
guys.
Sid was wrong. It feels like if this was a
All right.
musical, you'd have like the people like these fake angels like
Yeah.
That's a
rising
great-
up.
That's a great way to start it. So why don't you read out the definition of cryptorchid?
Cryptorchidism is the absence of one or both testes from the scrotum. The word is from, well, there's Greek words.
Does it really say testes? Or do
yeah,
you say
no, it
testes?
says
No,
it.
testes is the actual word.
From the Greek
Testicle.
Like in
kryptos
biology,
and
testes is a word.
the meaning
testicle,
of
then?
orchis,
A single one.
which means testicle. Testes is plural of testicle.
Yeah.
It's not.
So it's not testicles?
I don't know.
Well, no, it's just another
We
way
can
of
Google
saying
that
it. I
after.
don't know. It's
I think there's a there's a
legit.
valid term for it.
I need to know.
And they'll
Internet.
Google. You
Help
can
me,
Google
Internet.
after. It's
Help
fine.
me.
Sid,
Keep going.
let's keep going.
Well, it's the most common birth defect. There we go.
Yeah. So I think before we even talk about the song, I got distracted. So Cryptorchid has an interesting music video that isn't a real music video. It came out as a non-single. They just did it. So this was not made intentionally for the song. The video are clips from a 1991 experimental horror film, Begotten. Fans call it something you find in the deep web. So I put it on. I found it on YouTube. It's not really in the deep web anymore. It is the most weird shit. So God at the beginning of that video dies, and then Mother Earth is born, jacks off God, the sperm lands on her belly, and then I turned it off because I was like, that was some fucking weird shit. And then a bunch
After
of...
God dies?
Yeah. Yeah, it's an experimental horror film. And it's on this crazy, well, you guys, if you saw the video, you know it's this crazy black and white thing. And then the whole plot happens, and she has a son, according to Wiki, and the son goes on and faceless people torture him, and then people die. And it's just a fucking weird video with like weird sounds and like one of those. It's like the avant-garde shit of music, but for like movies, I think. And so, interestingly enough, I think it was one of the singles that we'll get to later on is produced, or the music video was produced by the same guy, but it ended up never getting released. And so they had a little friendship, and he wanted to do this for Manson. And that's some fucked up shit. And you should check out that video if you want to watch a crazy back-ass horror movie of like 93. Anyway, so the balls thing is actually important for like the point of the song. This is like we're starting the next act, I believe. We're now being really introduced to him as the protagonist. Each time I make my mother cry, an angel dies and falls from heaven. So here it's like his actions, because this is why I think he's a young man, because the things he's doing are disappointing his mother.
I mean, here, yes.
And I think the prior song was world context, and here is like really, that was all like context. It's like when the first 500 pages of like the first fucking Game of Thrones book that just describes the world before anything happens. So it's kind of like that. That was the whole first act.
And then everybody dies.
Not quite.
Yay.
They'll never kill off the short guy because he's a favorite character of Martin. Anyway,
Season 8 isn't out yet. You don't know.
no, he said it. He's never gonna kill him.
Yeah, but he's a dick like that.
Anyway, when the boy is still, plus he makes too much money. When the boy is still a worm, it's hard to learn the number 7. So like when you're a kid and shit, it's hard to really understand God or choices in consciousness. But when they get to you, it's never the first thing that they do. But when they get to you, so the world comes, the world corrupts, the world takes you out. And he's counting numbers and shit, and it's really awesome effects and whatnot going on. And then each time I look outside, my mother dies, because every time he goes out and he interacts with the world, he does something that makes his mother feel a little more disappointed, feels his back's changing shape, because he has the parable of how he's like a worm and shit that will get on, and he's feeling like the metamorphosis taking over his body. When the worm consumes the boy, it's never ever considered rape. So when the world fucks you, it's not rape. Clever. It is.
Yeah, no, this
And
is a fucking clever album.
then it's like first thing, whatever. Prick your finger, it is down. The moon is now eclipsed. The sun, the angel has spread its wings. The time has come for better things. So that whole little end, it's like.
We can talk about that when it comes back.
But I think we can talk about it a little bit now because it's part of the story. And my interpretation of this album is as it goes in chronological order. Yours is from having heard the album a whole bunch. Right. So when I first heard this, I didn't know it was coming back. I just heard this. And this is, you got to keep in mind, we just got introduced to the prophecy of a figure, somebody to represent the devil, something clearly calling from Revelations, the bad Antichrist. And then you have this character who's disappointing, doing troubled things, is not really fitting in so well. Apparently, there's an overall desire to be a man that he's lacking in his life, and that's where the title of it comes in a little bit. But that part at the end, the way the music changes into that cool robotic voice that like Linkin Park put on Thousand Suns a couple times, it's just like, it's like that moment in your life, and this is something I've related with, where like you just stop giving a fuck about the social shit. Like it just stopped mattering, and you feel the pain and it goes away. And and you just finally get cool with what you're doing, and you feel like this revelation in your own life, and you start seeing the future. And I feel like he musically conveys that thing. And yes, I understand that he calls back to it later on because he does that to like tie in the album together.
That's it, right? That's why it's important. Like,
But
that's not
it's
the only
also
reason why
like
it's
super
but-
important here because of like it's just awesome sounding.
But that's how you take your concept album to the next level, right? You add this
So I
element
would
of
have brought it up
foreshadowing.
later on. When
Well, I'm gonna bring it up now because I think
little
that,
too
like
late.
for me, that's really the only reason this song is here.
I know.
Like I can't imagine the album without this track, but I wouldn't listen to this track alone. Type thing.
I give it a 5, dude.
I
I think this song is fucking amazing. I fucking loved it the first time I heard it. I was like, what the? This is one of those, you know how like she goes, and I was listening to it, and this one made me like do a double take and like whatever. It's
I
kind of
love
like
your impressions of me.
one of those. Like I was like, what the fuck is this? That end part is one of the most beautiful things. It's so
great.
awesome. I
It's
love
great.
it.
I
You don't
love
have
it.
to agree with me.
Revelation.
I'm saying I love it in context of the album.
You're wrong.
Okay.
I didn't say that. That was her.
I love it in context of the album. In terms of an individual song, But like I can't imagine the album without it. And I love the fact that they foreshadow that. I love the fact that it splits off and becomes this whole other almost second song, like halfway through. It's great.
We'll get there.
And it's one of several elements of foreshadowing on this record. So it's really cool the way he does that. So it's a 4.3 on 5 for me.
No, I would agree. I really like the ending, and it's like some revelation. And like I said, you can like picture this whole like scene going on with angels, and oh my God, I see the light. But it's kind of like, I feel like some of the songs on this are more like if you ever listen to the Broadway channel, if you have like a bunch of radio stations.
I've never done that.
It's the best thing ever because if you have no idea what it's part of, and then suddenly you've got the middle of a story going on, and the person's all intense about something that happened, and you're like
325,600
525,000, sir.
720. I've never seen Rent. I don't care.
I have.
So basically, that's what it is. But I would give it a 4.5.
Okay, let's talk about Deformography. So Deformography. I don't know if that's a real word. I just kind of took it as like, well, you're changing and you're deforming, because you got to keep in mind that this protagonist is like your social outcast who's hated by everyone and people don't like him. So is Brian, and he's also whatever, and he views himself as like a societal antichrist. So if it is an antichrist, it's more like how Brian perceived himself in my mind. And this one starts off interesting. When you wish upon a star, don't let yourself fall in too hard. And I feel like you get the sense that he's starting to wish for great things in his life, some grandeur, you know. I fell into you, now I'm on my back, an insect decaying in your little trap. I squirm into you, now I'm in your gut. I fell into you, now I'm in a rut. And I feel like this is kind of his way of showing that in his like disdain for like normal culture and all of his efforts to be offensive and to be this thing, he managed to like creep into the beautiful people's minds, and they started to really like him and appreciate him and kind of come to him like, so you're a rock star, yeah, you're such a dirty rock star. That's him, you know, like, and that's really what he was. And I think it's a little bit like, but it also fits into the parable of the story. So how does this guy get his clout in this thing? He becomes a fucking rock star by being an offensive asshole. He's just telling his own story, dude. And if you really want to go back, what I love about Lunchbox, which is way back,
not on this record.
like we're talking like it's the first one, right? It's not even the EP. It's off of Portrait, I think.
Yeah.
And I want to grow up. I want to be a rock and roll star. And like it's like way back then, like, and that's that would be like the kid version of this if we because there is the theory in the Manson verse that all of the albums are one story. There is that theory.
Oh God, I hope not.
So, but I honestly, if you listen to the tone of Portrait, it's like as a kid, and now we've moved into Manson. It's possible. And anyway,
That's fine. I just can't imagine Eat Me, Drink Me being. Oof.
I mean, that's way later on, but I don't know actually know it's on that. Either way, so it's fucking cool. It was fucking like an interesting thing just to picture that. Like, you eat up my heart and all the little parts. Your star is so sharp, it leaves me jagged holes. I make myself sick to poison you. If I can't have you, no one will. And I feel like this is kind of a commentary on the way society treats him as a celebrity. Like, they like him as long as he abuses himself with drugs and cuts himself on stage and does all this crazy shit. So they don't like him. They like that he's crazy.
Yeah.
And that was interesting. And then in another backmasked move, it has "I'm Gonna Tear You Down" on there somewhere. And I feel like this is almost a rage inside as he's gotten kind of some fame. He's starting to get what he wants, but it's not what he wanted and he's not happy with it. So 4.5 on 5. Really cool song. Really amazing energy to it. The music kind of has more of that, like the second or third track there, that kind of laid back, stripped down, almost the opposite of what we just heard, but it feels so connected to the last song. Like they go in parallel together. Like the last one was like, I'm gonna rise up, I'm gonna get there, and now it's like we've jumped ahead a bit and he's got there, he's on the grind, and it's just he's realizing even more bullshit that's making him discover the hate, I guess, even more or so, or how everything really works. Anyway, it's really interesting. 4.5 on 5.
I think when you look up the definition too, it says, well, like what you said, so basically when he's failing to become one of the social elites or the beautiful people.
The definition of deformography?
Yeah, well, as according to the end to this song, swears to destroy the society and rejects him rather than changing it from the inside. So that's, well, that's what you were saying. I just had it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. But I feel like also there's the theme of because there's a whole Wormboy and everything. There's still, I feel like he plays a lot with his vocabulary. And there's always a bug thing that comes back.
Well, I feel
I
like,
don't know. It's just something to
but
point
I feel
out.
like it's because it's supposed to be a disgusting caterpillar, you know, like.
But that's it. He's the caterpillar, and then he enters the cocoon, and then he comes out as.
Yeah.
But instead, like in a more gothic, dark sense, he's this disgusting worm maggot thing that goes through the same process that would turn into whatever he turns
when
into.
the boy is still a worm.
And vocally,
That's not this song.
he really reflects it well. Like you can feel it.
Yeah.
You can. I really liked it. I would give it a 4.5.
I do think the use of worm in this song was to connect the ideas.
I like the song a little less. I really like the chorus. I really, really like the chorus. So musically, for me, like that's what this song is. Rock star, yeah, you're such a dirt, and those fucking disgusting dissonant chords, and that rhythm is just great. The rest of the song is like whatever. I can take it or leave it, but it's that chorus, and for that chorus alone, I'm giving it a 4.2 on 5.
Cool. Let's move on to Wormboy. I think something I haven't mentioned enough, and I don't have specifics in my notes, is that there's a lot of parts where like the songs just kind of end with these distortions and sounds, and it made Bonnie leave the room. She was so unhappy with some of these noises she was hearing. I just wanted to throw it in that the effects done, the way they transition these things is really cool, even if nobody's mentioned it up until this point. I just thought it had to be said.
It really works as a single piece. This album really works.
Yes, absolutely. I love how creepy it gets for a second in the middle of this song when it's like kind of like his
more foreshadowing.
Yeah, that the lyric is used in other songs. I don't remember which one it was, but that's fine. In the beginning, you hear, "Notice the worms, promise the worms that I'm a solution," and that's cool because like I think he's kind of like. I mean, I just picture Slipknot's maggots actually when I hear that. I don't think they're connected, but so just kind of like he's the key worm. He's like the king of the worms. He's the one who's going to come in, you know? So when you realize you're already there, so watered down, your feelings have turned to mud. Love everybody is destroying the value. All hate has got me nowhere. So here it's almost like the vapidness of this, of trying to be part of the beautiful people, of trying to be part of that, of embracing their world, of trying to integrate into that society. And now we've culminated into this situation. And then what's happening is response is, I know I'm slipping away. And so it's almost like he can't handle it. He's almost losing himself. Like he can't keep up with these fake fucks is what he's trying to say.
And then enter the distortion and weird sounds.
Yeah, and then, oh no, it's everything they said. Oh no, I am all the things they said I was. Oh no, it is everything they said it was. Oh no, I am all the things they said I was. Now that is so interesting because here it's the realization that he is the social outcast, loser, weirdo after all. And it's like even after trying to fit in for all this time, he failed. And now he has to accept the fact that he's not. He's whatever. And when will you realize you're already here? Well, thank us now you have crossed over. Don't pick the scabs you will never heal. The world shudders as the worm gets his wings. So it almost has like this sense of vengeance and like I'm gonna come back at all of you and come at you. I don't want to say it, but I can see how ignorant people could associate Columbine with him. You know, when you read those lyrics ignorantly, and I'm emphasizing that. But I could see how stupid people would make that connection. Whereas,
because the point isn't that he's like. I
mean, if you take it literally, he's a little bit saying "come back, kill the beautiful people" is kind of the desire that he's presenting. But it's poetry. It's like a art experience.
It's the difference between feeling that and empathizing with people that feel that as well. And taking that literally.
Oh, I'm not trying to defend anything about the situation and how it went down. I'm saying I could understand how the people protesting him could hear his lyrics shallowly and end up at some conclusions, whereas previously I wasn't actually that familiar with the content to understand how he became the poster child for hate like that. So hearing this, I mean, there is a little degree of like and I'm not saying this from like I love it. I think this is fucking excellent art. I think this is shit that needs to be said. I think there are a lot of people who feel these types of things, especially in certain social dynamics. So don't get me wrong. I'm not criticizing Manson. I'm saying, oh, that makes sense now, is more my feeling here, right? Because whatever. Then he gets his wings, whatever. When you get to heaven, you'll wish you're in hell. I think that's an interesting line too, because it's the idea of when you do get to your paradise, when you do get into those social crowds you want to get into, etc. Turns out it's really fucking terrible. I think a lot of television has taught me that over my life. Yeah. Anyway, this song is also fucking cool. It's got another weird transitionary shit.
Do you remember what the lyrics that he sings in there are? Because it's
Which
so
ones?
In that little
That's
disgusting little
Then I got
part.
my wings and I never knew it. When I was the worm, thought I wouldn't go through it. But yo, the way it just fucking goes through and it goes from that disgusting dirt. Because the first time I heard it, I honestly said, this is the first time I may have heard amateur bullshit sounding music. And then I listened to it a couple more. No, the first time.
Okay.
I said the first time, you gotta listen. But then, as I listened to it more, they're realizing how deliberate and how well done it is. This is an example of a guy who knows the rules well enough to understand exactly how to break them. And I thought that was fucking excellent. Still, 4.5 on 5 because it is a little jarring. It was a little hard to get your head around. But 4.5, man, I'm loving this project.
Christen,
I don't know. I didn't write much other than like, I mean, I wasn't crazy about it. I liked the weirdness of it though, and like what he was doing with his voice was like up and then down, up and then down, and then up and then down. Oh my god.
Okay.
But I really thought that it was gonna be something.
We're conversing.
It's conversation.
She's finally talking.
Oh my god! But I really thought that it was. I don't know. I was waiting for more because it was like Wormboy. It was like the transformation and like something. I don't know.
Well,
I was waiting.
I mean, personally, I think this song is the most fun song on the record.
Well,
like in terms of just sheer amusement and enjoyability, I love this. And if you guys watch this, then these guys know I fucking love weird music, right? Like, and this song is right up my alley. Like the first time I heard this track, it's so different from everything else on the record.
It's very cool.
And it's so different from most of anything else that he's really ever released.
Since Cryptorchid all the way through, it's kind of had that consistent weird theme. It's a transitionary part of the album where he's literally metamorphizing.
Right, but this one is a full song.
Yeah,
right?
but like, so was Deformography was also like 4 minutes. Granted, Cryptorchid's like 2.5 minutes, but none of these are not full songs, to be fair.
But this one is just so like, and the rhythms are so great,
but it's
and all
really
the little samples.
What happened here was
way.
that he'd made the cool thing in the middle and not at the end. I'm not trying to be.
You mean that little acoustic part where it's like really dissonant and really.
Yeah, because he's done a lot of these like moves like that. It's just this time it was the first on this album where it was like main riff, middle weird part, main riff.
Yeah, I mean I'm not mad at that. I like that it comes back because I love this song. Like this is a 5 on 5. For
me, 90% is pretty fucking great still.
4.5.
See, a 90% over here too. You can have. You've sat with it long. You've had enough time.
Why do you argue with me when I say I like the song?
Why do you argue with me when I say also? Because we like to argue. That's why they come here. That's what they're here for. Mr. Superstar, you're going to have to get used to that type of shit. Big rock star, I wanna grow up. This one was pretty cool. just the premise of the song is Marilyn Manson is realizing it's really easy to excite and turn people on, but you can't turn them off after. And I never thought about that. And I'm swearing, in my whole life, I've never just considered the idea, like, what if you could walk into the room and every girl wanted you, but you were like, no, let's just have a cup of tea and chat, but you couldn't get them to not want you. I never thought about that in my life until this moment. But yeah, like, hey, Mr. Superstar, I'll do anything for you. I'm your number one fan. He's probably heard that a lot at this point, even at this point in his career, because he is kind of big. He's growing or whatnot, right? He's had some success. Sweet Dreams charted, if I'm not mistaken. Hey, Mr. Porno Star, I want you. Mr. Sickly Star, I want to get sick from you. That's an interesting line. Like, you could be like with AIDS and shit, and like they still want you or whatever. It's kind of how I took it, because AIDS would have been like the hot shit back then. Mr. Fallen Star, don't you know I worship you? So even if you fell off, even if your things, or even, no matter what, even if your ethics are fucked, whoever you are, they still want you. Hey, Mr. Big Rock Star, I want to grow up to be just like you. If we go back to those Lunchbox lyrics, I want to grow up, I want to be like, even Manson was this kid at one point wanting to grow up to be that person. And then my favorite line, I know that I can turn you on. I wish I could just turn you off. I never wanted this. Like, you know, like, and if you think about the context of the album, he never wanted all of the fame and shit. He wants to maybe kill everyone. He maybe wants to destroy some shit. But really, he wanted to fit in. And then in his efforts to break away from fitting in, he becomes super famous and everybody fucking loves him. That must fuck with your mind. Like, can you imagine the mind fuck it is to be Manson, to be so polarizingly loved and hated at the exact same time? Not an easy thing. He kind of goes on like that, and then I like the way it ends with just or then the hey Mr. Superman, I want to be your little girl, like just lines like that the rest of the song. And then you could kill yourself on TV, I wish I was dead. I wish you'd kill yourself on TV. Will you kill yourself on TV? We'd like to see you dead. And that's where he realizes that as a celebrity, it's look what we did to Britney Spears, look what we did to Lindsay Lohan. And I say we as in how we celebrated their demise, we encouraged it, we tabloided it up, and I'd say we the people are responsible for, like, Justin Bieber's another one that we did this to. We encouraged them to kill themselves, almost hoping to a degree that they'll die. And then, like, you know, like, because, you know, like when Lil Peep passed, his albums charted at #1 and shit. And, like, people just kind of want that almost to happen. It's this fucked up, weird situation. And I think Manson captures this perspective from a superstar in a way. Plus, it's groovy, like, hey, mister. Like, after what we've heard, like, it's got this groove. It's got, like, this swagger to it where, like, it's not so jarring. It's not so militant. It's not so in your fucking face. It's almost fun.
I mean, he whispers it too at some point. It's like, hey, Mr. Superstar.
Yeah. Like, there is this creepiness to it because he's Manson, but I feel like he really does a great job of selling this one, too. It's another 4.5 on 5 for me.
This one's also catchy, and there's a good hook, but it's true. And I don't know. I mean, like, I like that. I like the lyrics, and I like in the sense that it's structured. Like, he doesn't just repeat the same thing over, and he plays on it. And I liked it from the beginning, and I'd give it a 4.75, and that's it.
Okay.
It's a good song. The chorus sounds like a house burning down, which is rock and roll as fuck. It's super heavy. That's about all I have to say. It's a 4.5 on 5.
Yeah, it's a good song. Interesting. It also moves the plot along because now he's obviously reached some heights of superstardom as this protagonist. And yeah, then we're going to talk about Angel with Scabbed Wings. This was the song he was opening up the tour for this with when he came out with his whole outfit, and it was apparently quite the tour. Like, Manson put on a spectacle once upon a time is what I hear. I hear of recent years it's not quite the spectacle to see him live. My colleague who sits next to me told me all about how not spectacularly it was when she saw Manson recently. But back then...
Now he's on a lot of drugs and just can't do...
Well, he was probably still on a lot back then, too.
He was younger, right? And his body could take it.
He's probably in his late 40s.
Early 50s.
Something like that.
And all the germs in his body are dead.
Yeah, because of the drugs.
As well as most of the brain cells, I would think.
I don't know, because that last album was pretty good. He's an angel with the scabbed wings, hard drug face, wanna powder his nose. He will devour the freshest crop, dry up all the wombs with his rock and roll sores, etc. I got the feeling this is him a little bit. Like, I might be wrong. He's kind of looking at himself as like this savior type person in the way he perceives himself, but he's fucked up and he uses these drugs and he's like whatever. I don't know. This one was a little harder for me to connect to compared to some of the other ones.
But it's like angel with the scabbed wings, right? Like that is the imagery of the fallen angel, the Antichrist, right? Like that's.
I mean,
so
yeah.
Like it's the like as much as it's personal because every album is personal, all music is personal, but it is the character.
But it's also how he sees himself too.
Yeah.
Like literally, like if you listen to him in interviews at this time, he literally sees himself as this person. He's using this album as a vessel to explain to the world him as much as it is.
Any song, even if it's not about the person writing it, on some level it's about the person writing it.
Yeah, but
right?
in this case, I'm saying it's a lot more about the person writing it while also doing it in this elaborate story.
Fine.
Anyway, you're right. There is that imagery of the Antichrist because that's how he sees himself, and he's manifesting this like story, right?
It's not a concept album.
It's not.
There's
it's
no
not
story.
At all. Yeah, no, it's this story, but he like I said, in his mind, the lines. This is his delusions of grandeur put into real life. That's a good way to put it. Dead is what he is. He does what he pleases. The things that he has, you'll never want to see. You're never gonna be now. Kind of got the sense of vapid desperation, or he's willing to do whatever he fucking wants. He's kind of whatever. Sketch a little keyhole for looking glass people. You don't want to be him. You only want to see him. Mommy's got a scarecrow. Gotta let the corn grow. Mom can't always reap what he sow. I think that's kind of pulling back to the way his mom's kind of whatever and unhappy with the way his life's going, and his world's still fucked up. He's just kind of really selling it home, but also that people also kind of tying into how people are using him and kind of that conflict within himself. He's the maker, taker, savior, and raper, right? Because previously these were all things he saw happening in the world. So in a sense, to avoid having them happen to himself, he's now going to do all of these various things. Get back, you're never going to leave him. Get back, you're always going to please him, etc. You just get the sense he's almost losing himself into this shallow personality to cope with the world. But I felt like it kind of was a little flatter. It felt like other bands I'd heard before. Like this one felt the least like a unique, cool experience in my opinion. It fit. It was nice. It was diverse in the sense of like it worked on this album and didn't sound like the other songs. But so much so that I felt like it was a little far off. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I give it a 4.
Okay. I mean, it's not bad, but I wasn't crazy about it. I really liked. I mean, I liked the guitar. I liked the effects that they used on vocals, definitely. But I wrote like at that point, it was kind of, I don't know. I didn't feel it kind of blended with the other stuff a little bit.
That's fair. I mean, this is the first time I heard this. I was like, this is it. This is my favorite Marilyn Manson song. Like, this is my favorite Marilyn Manson song.
Really?
I love this song.
Not to argue with you. I'm just really.
I love this song. Like,
okay.
This song is tension incarnate. Like, everything about it is just from the bass line to the fuzz to the samples to the riffs to the just the unhinged screaming. Like, I love it when he just because this is what he's really good at, right? Like, it's just screaming with emotion. Like, he can do that so well, and he does it so well on this track. And the music matches him, and it rises and it falls and it rises and it falls, and there's pits and valleys and waves, and it's beautiful at the same time as it's ugly. Like it's everything that Marilyn Manson is captured in this one little burst of energy. And I love that so much. And he is the angel with the scab, and then damn is like it's all the cadences and all the way the punches come in and everything flourishes so well. It's definitely a 5 on 5.
Okay. The next one is Kinderfeld. This song, I don't really get as much as the other ones. Like some of them, I don't know. A couple of songs on an album you're gonna be like, I don't get it. He lives inside my mouth, tells me what to say. When he turns the trains on, he makes it go away. Apparently that has to do with his grandfather's trains in the basement and some shit about how his grandfather used to watch animal porn and he caught his grandfather jacking into porn one day. And like all of that was in like the annotations on Genius. And I'm like, maybe? I don't know what this is about, like, and then he makes it go away. Fine. So maybe you get the sense of like, he's like reflecting back on these traumatic experiences that happened to him. That's the sense I got. And not just because of the annotations, but just because of what he said there. He turns his trains on. You do picture like kids, trains, innocence, like it's okay. Like, it tells me what to say. He lives there. The nails are beetle wings. When he turns the trains on, he unties all the strings. I guess you get the sense of like some weird, creepy pedophilia porno movie getting filmed, and like I don't know. That's the what I ended up being at, and I don't know if Manson was going for that. Like he's trying to paint this picture of abuse. Tell me something beautiful, tell me something free, tell me something beautiful, and I wish I could be. That again has that shattered sense of esteem, brokenness that's going on. So maybe because of this abuse or whatever he felt as a kid, he has this hollowness in him that has him craving this shit as he's maturing into this Antichrist Superstar that he'll soon be. Then he gets his wings because he's Wormboy and shit. And this is the end of the second act, right? So this is the end of his metamorphosis from guy trying to be with the beautiful people to guy ready to kill the beautiful people. And I say kill not in a maybe literal sense, but in a cultural destruction of the ideologues and that kind of stuff.
And it's also the first moment on the album where you get that first that payoff of the foreshadowing coming back, right? Because it's that when I get my wings, like that's the part that was happening in Wormboy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was soft and it was unsure and it was uncertain, and now it's big and it's the chorus and it's low and it's deep and it's adult. Like
it's like he's now this whatever he's become.
That's it. He's come out of his cocoon.
I feel like worms turn into dragons, but that's worm with a Y, and it's a whole other thing. Anyway.
Yeah.
The definition is like the benefit you get of like if you have children, so they pay you government. So
okay. That's Kinderfeld?
Like, here, have children, yeah.
So yeah, because today is black, because there's no turning back, because your lies have watered me, I have become the strongest weed. The taste of metal, Disintegrator. That's the protagonist's name. So as much as whatever, the actual name is Disintegrator. Nice.
Sounds like an 80s thrash band.
Yep. These holes upon the leather belt, it's cut and swollen, the age is showing, there's no one here to save ourselves. So yeah, I feel like he sees the world going into this state of decay and destruction and everything, and he wants to save the world by destroying everything that makes it evil. So he's the disintegrator, but it isn't necessarily as malicious and awful as it might sound when it's just like the shock behind the shock value is some purity. Is I guess
it's the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? Like
yeah.
He takes a lot of classic idioms and classical ideologies on this record and twists them and turns them into this modern story, right?
But I also feel like at the same time, what you're supposed to feel like is this sense that he is this awful person. But I think he's actually the hero in his mind.
Well, I think he's flawed. Right?
Yeah.
He's flawed. He's a character that starts off with noble intentions that turns into something evil through no fault. Not no fault of his own.
But I also don't find that it's so evil in like, because I don't know that he's looking at good and evil the way that we, like Manson himself and the way this is written. Good and evil are not the same concepts in our modern sense of good and evil.
It's not black and white.
Right.
It's not supposed to be
Because I feel
black and
like
white.
he realizes that destroying the culture of what makes these people the way that they are is the only thing that will save them. It just comes off in like the worst fucking way, but in a sense, you could reword it in some way that's packaged that it's completely the noblest shit in the sense, but he chose to sell it like this. But what he's actually saying is some noble shit, I think, deep down inside. I think that's how when I like really thought about the premise of the album, it's shock value and it's spun in a way, but it's totally deeper than the surface level of the message, Anyway, this one's a 4.25 for me. It's okay. It's cool, the payoff's nice and all, but it kind of felt like this middle part was not my favorite part of the album. It was okay. It was just kind of like you felt there was a lot of similar transitionary phases. This is the part where it really works great as a movie, but as individual songs, I couldn't see myself enjoying them as much this second act. There was like one I really liked. This one was okay, 4.25.
There was some good vocal fry, though.
Absolutely. But like at the end of the day, I don't know. I don't feel the draw as much, and there are a lot more songs I enjoyed on this album than this middle part.
Well, I mean, there's not much else to say. I mean, it's not a song that I particularly remember. I'd give it a 4.
I really like the bass line.
That's true. That is something.
I like that, and I love it when a record brings that back around, right? Like I love it when they put the time into having a song repeat a line from a previous song that's different enough but thematically works and fits.
Yeah.
So I give it a 4.5.
Yeah, it's that. I'm not gonna lie. The way they draw and strew the album together is fucking amazing and incredible. But you know what song I liked more? Antichrist Superstar. This one had a music video that was made by the guy who made that horror movie we spoke about earlier, and it's out on YouTube, so you can catch this video now. But it only surfaced in 2010. Interscope or whoever it was basically thought the filmography or the cinematography of the video is shit, and it was just like a fucking terrible video. And it's basically a bunch of old footage of like fascist shit and militaries and lights and all this scary shit. Manson in the middle, they filmed some footage specifically of Manson, and then Manson ripping a Bible apart at that part where he would do it in the live show. And yeah, it was not the best music video I've seen, but it was definitely in this weird, cool, artsy style. And Manson said in defense of the dude, he wasn't done, and he bet he would have finished it, and it would have been lovely. On that note, title track, that's what we're at. I guess this is the beginning of the new era. He's now coming in. You know, you built me up with your wishing hell. I didn't have to sell you. You threw your money in the pissing well. You do just what they tell you. Now, here we're going a little bit more on religion. I think that... keep in mind, like, I think the number one point of this album is to call religion bullshit, or at least the Catholic Church or Christianity or his, you know, what he's seen. So that's what that's about, you know? Like, he comes in and, like, they're all talking about hell and shit, but really he's like, yeah, but I just watched you walk into a church and hand all your money to make these preachers rich and shit, you know? It's some really blatant stuff. Repent, that's what I'm talking about. I shed the skin to feed the fake. Repent, that's what I'm talking about. Whose mistake am I anyway? A little bit in the comment of just how kind of vapid everybody is with their repentance and stuff. I mean, if you look at it now, just take religion out of it, and let's just talk about Twitter in 2018 and just cut out religion. It could apply to any group attacking any other group, I think, at this point. Any morally justice, superior person kind of telling other people what's right or wrong. I think it's a little bit of an attack on that kind of ethos. Cut the head off, grows back hard. I am Hydra. Now I'll see your star. You'll see your star. So he's saying that he's now so big and he's so infectious that he's like Hydra, the one. That's a snake where if you cut off one head, two heads came back. Greek mythology. Good shit. And then, yeah, pick your finger. It's done. The moon has now eclipsed the sun. Hey, that's from Cryptorchid or whatever. And it's now back. And he's like a little more aggressive, a little more fucking powerful. Like, that's like the shit where he was... Remember, as I said, that was him visualizing himself growing into the superstar he would once be. At that point, I had forgotten it was on this song. Lo and behold, the song where he's now in full fruition superstar mode, this is coming back, and it's tying in like he has visualized this coming to be in his mind, and now it's actually the reality of what's going on. As Sid said, everything he said about the excellent use of calling back to whatever is just as excellent on this song, and it's really fucking cool. Time has come. It's quite clear our Antichrist is almost here. I feel like, yes, the Antichrist is being prophesized in a sense, but I think it's more of a cultural Antichrist where Manson is here to destroy culture and everything. But in the sense of the story, our protagonist has grown up and he is ready to wreak havoc on the culture of this little fictional universe too, in the same sense. Yeah. Originally, though, there's that little outro at the end, right? Where it's kind of whispery and shit. I think that's what the time has come, whatever line. No, sorry, I wrote it down over here. So originally, the outro was, you might as well kill yourself, you're already dead. That's just being like whispered and shit in that crazy static stuff. But it ended up actually being, when you are suffering, know that I have betrayed you. And they're both really interesting lines. One's a little more religion-y, I think, than the other one. The when you're suffering, know that he betrayed you. That's kind of like, that's God talking to you. So God who's supposed to protect you and love you. When you suffer as a person, know that God betrayed his promise to do that to you, is what Manson's saying. Okay, sure. The other one's just like, life's fucking pointless, so you may as well die. Either way, fucking whatever. This song's fucking upbeat. It's got this, it's how I feel about most of this album, a 4.5. It's an amazing song, but I don't know that it's like, quite like The Beautiful People, which I think is the best song on the album we've heard. One of this or Cryptorchid. Those are my two favorite songs so far. Everything else has either been this level of really awesome or the couple of lackluster ones we just hit up. But this was a good song. And you, Sydney?
I love this song. It's a 5 on 5 for me.
Okay.
The end. I like I like how it starts even, and it's all intense. But like I think like you were pointed out, right? It's not. I don't know. It's like the self-title, like it's the song of the title of the album, and it wasn't the most amazing thing ever. Like what's the middle of the 415?
I don't know.
4.15.
Okay. I don't know. I feel like it fits thematically.
It does.
I mean, I don't know if any other song even would have made sense with this name.
I think the lyrics were great though.
I would have loved to have seen this live because the part where this is where he would like adopt it, like he would probably put on the Pope hat and shit and really come out on stage ready to be your totalitarian Antichrist figure, and then he would rip up the Bible and shit, which is, it sounds so corny in 2018 to describe it, but I bet it was pretty scandalous once upon a time. Yeah, I guess nobody else has more here, so let's go back to the year of this album's release.
1996.
Now, this is what I was hoping for. It's like a whole new punkish fucking feel that we have not really gotten. This isn't so industrial. This to me is like some fucking nice punk ass shit. It's amazing. I wanted this to be the Antichrist Superstar song. Like, you know how she described the title track? I wanted this to be that instead of this being the year that they came out, which it fits, I guess, because he's now the Antichrist Superstar coming into fruition. I guess he's contextualizing this is the modern era. So he's letting you know that through the song title. Light a candle for the sinner, set the world on fire. Anti-choice and anti-girl, and I am anti-flag and unfurled, and anti-white and anti-man, and I'm anti-future and anti-plan. He did say anti-flag. I just wanted to throw it out. That means he's actually in another punk band. I'm kidding. I love anti-flag. I can't believe in the things that don't believe in me. I think that's kind of a criticism of like how he can't believe in your ideals and your shit and whatever because you never believed in him. And he's looking around at these people who are just fucking anti-everything. It's 2018. That shit's gotten worse. Now it's your turn to see what I hate about me. So I guess he's going to tell you about all the darkness inside of him. Anti-people, now you've gone too far. Here's your Antichrist Superstar. So he's like, you think you guys understand hate? I'm going to show you what the fuck hate is, and he's going to bring it. He's going to one-up all of your societal bullshit. Yeah, I don't really have a lot more to comment. The lyrics proceed to anti-everything. That's basically what they are. But the feel of this song is just so fucking good. It's so strong. It's so amazing. It's like, whereas the last song had this like grandiose of power, of like culmination, of like, I am embracing my spirit. This is the fucking warpath. This is destruction. This is the disintegrator disintegrating. I really enjoyed this, but I really enjoyed it more because it could be called 2018. And I bet it could be called 2025. I know that's a depressing thought, but I'm kind of realistic. This is a very honest song, and I think a really noteworthy point on this album is how much every song is applicable today as it was when he released. There's not one song we've talked about that's less applicable or that hasn't aged poorly. It's almost like it makes Manson seem prophetic, all things considered. 5 on 5. Amazing fucking track.
I like how it picks up. I think we needed that, especially with the next few songs, because it really broke the similarity, I guess. And I really liked the lyrics of it, so I gave it a 4.5.
I mean, I love this song too. Like this song is the reason I couldn't give Little Horn a higher grade, because like Irresponsible, Hate Anthem, Little Horn, this one are all kind of the same thing, but like this one does it the best.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So yeah, I'm not going to get into anything else too much, but yeah, 5 on 5.
Yeah. So let's talk about Minute of Decay. So yeah, this one like slows down and goes into like, I guess, more of that groove driven kind of sound that he has going on. I don't know. I didn't like it as much. I suppose I felt it was a bit of a jarring shift. There's not much left to love. Too tired today to hate. I feel empty. I feel the minute of decay. I'm on my way down. I'd like to take you with me. I'm on my way down. And basically, like, this song, it's like all of a sudden he's depressed and he's suicidal. And he, if you think about it, in like the last song, he's talking about, okay, you know what, you all like hate. This is what real hate looks like. And he fucking flips it. So their hate is all for other people, and their hate is all for like cultures and things and whatever. His hate is about himself, right? And he turns it on himself. And this song is really dark, really fucking depressing. That minute of decay is that moment when you're fucking questioning, I take it, like, if you're gonna live or die, you know, like, because you want to literally kill yourself. The minute that it's born, it begins to die. I'd love to just give in. I'd love to live this lie. And I feel like, on the other hand, he's struggling with his desire to maybe conform and go be fake or all these other things. And just being a real person or being himself is killing him a little bit, in a sense. And I thought that was fucking legit. I don't know. I don't have a lot more to add musically. It's kind of on par with the slower ones on this track. It doesn't have anything noteworthy in terms of hooks or grabs for me. Plot-wise, like, this is one that I would probably skip a little bit if I came back to it, because I do like the songs following it more, and I like the songs before it more. And I don't know. It's a 4.25. I really respect what this song is, and if it just came on, there are definitely moments I could find myself vibing to it. But it's not my favorite on this album, but I do love the bass line and the cool driving groovy feel to it. Yeah.
Agreed, but I would, like what I was saying before, I was expecting a minute of decay. I was waiting for something cool to happen. And I mean, it was not that nothing cool happened. It was a song and like good for it, but it's just nothing super amazing about it. I'd give it like a 4.
That's fair. And you, Sydney?
I mean, thematically, I understand, right? Like, after this big grandiose coming out of this character, like, as this big rock and roll superstar, this, like, giant leading force, like, because he's become, in this story, right, the anyway, whatever, Minute of Decay.
Well, he's kind of become everything he fucking didn't want to be in the first place, you know?
And, yeah, now he's kind of, like, falling apart. And
I didn't even make that connection.
But it's not a story. Anyway.
I never said it wasn't a story. I said it was a parallel to his life at the same time.
I like the sleazy bass line. I also find this song, like, I like the low-key, like, blues bar drums. But I also find this one a little boring, a little long. So it's a 4 on 5.
Yeah. The next one is The Reflecting God. Yeah. This one comes in with, your world is an ashtray. We burn and coil like cigarettes. Apparently, like, we're all kind of here. We're gone. We fade out, you know, in a more, like, sleazy, kind of you get used by everybody sort of way. The more you cry, your ashes turn to mud. The nature of the leeches, the virgins feeling cheated. You've only spent a second of your life. And, like, I get the sense that this is like the realization you've wasted your life after pursuing a lot of these like false things and whatever. So if, you know, as this Antichrist Superstar person who's achieved all of his dreams and realizing, I guess, he's wasted a lot of his time and energy possibly pursuing this, you know, his world's unaffected. There's an exit here. I say it is, and it's true. There's a dream inside a dream. I'm wide awake. The more I sleep, you'll understand when I'm dead. I want to God just to see. And I was looking at me, saw heaven and hell where lies. When I'm God, everyone dies. And you get the sense that he's kind of like, he feels like he's reflecting back the essence of what God really is. So if you consider Nietzsche's God is dead and the idea that it's just not a real thing, it's a social construct and all this other shit, he's kind of saying, look, man, I've gone through all of this. I've tried, like, I went and I'm reflecting back to you, and you see me as the Antichrist, all this stuff, but I'm just taking your reality, what you, the people, are, and I'm just being the conduit to, like, send it back at you. So when you see this hatred and darkness in me, you're really just kind of seeing yourself, or you're seeing this God that doesn't exist and everything else like that, you know? Scar, scar, can you feel my power? I know there's another line earlier on the album that's kind of similar to that, like when he compares the stars to the scars, etc., which is cool. Shoot here and the world gets smaller. Scar, scar, can you feel my power? One shot and the world gets smaller. You kind of get the picture of him like shooting fireballs and stuff and destroying shit, like straight like end of the world type shit. Let's jump upon sharp swords and cut away our smiles without the threat of death. There's no reason to live at all. Now that's a fucking interesting line, right? So he's trying to point out there's no God. And you know how you know there's no God? Because really the point of life is that you will inevitably die. And without that fear of dying, without that risk, without that thing, there'd be no reward. There'd be almost no point to it. Having an afterlife and that safety cushion and that whatever doesn't let you take full advantage of your life in the situation that it is. And then he kind of does some stuff playing up on some religion. And and then it's pretty incredible to me is that it kind of flips back into that live version that you got at like the very start of this album, kind of really connecting it, like almost like Irresponsible Hate Anthem is really just kind of connected to when he's in this grandiose place and he's performing, and then everything else was kind of like building up. Like that first scene was kind of connected to this very last scene that we're about to see before we go into the big climatic point at the end of the album. So this is like the 8 minutes earlier shit at the beginning of a movie or whatever. So I thought that was fucking cool. And I get this on a 5. I love how it goes into that heavy, aggressive pumpiness, but it's polished. Like, it's like some of the more jarring songs earlier, but it's polished and it's smooth, and it's just fucking this strong experience that culminates. It's got the screamy shit that Sid described as being what Manson does best, laced all over it, and I fucking loved it. 5 on 5.
And I feel like it builds up in a way like you're expecting something of the last song or last two songs.
Yeah.
It's very screamy, which is great. I think especially at the end, I mean, you want your healthy dose of that before the album is over. So, 4.5.
Yeah.
And I like that concept of the reflecting God, right? Like that, like I went to God just to see, and I was looking at me. That concept of you are the God you create, you are the God, and you get the God you deserve, right? And like that's another theme that I really think is explored on this album is like you get what you wish for, right? Like
get what you deserve.
Like you anti-people, now you've gone too far. Here's your Antichrist Superstar. Like you asked for it, here it is. And right? Like that's the personification that he becomes, right? That whole anyway. Yeah, I love this song. It's a 5 on 5.
Yeah, absolutely right. I know. Look, it's like an interesting point. Just that, like it is. It's and it's funny because like as much as it fits the story, it ties into what America was doing with their career and just in everything that was going on. The more I think about this album, the more I find it really interesting. And then we get what I'm gonna call like the closing of this album, the grand finale. It's
Man that you fear.
Yeah.
Your boys and all your children to come.
So I guess this is the end of it. So the culmination. I feel like this one is the most about himself song that's on the album. Like the ants are in the sugar, the muscles atrophied. We're on the other side. The screen is us. That's a convoluted way of saying we sit on our asses and I live unhealthy lifestyles, consuming shit like we're TV and whatever. Spread me open, sticking to my pointy ribs and all your infants in abortion cribs. I was born into this. Everything turns to shit. That boy you loved is the man that you fear. And if you think about like the lines earlier where like he acts in a certain way, his mom cries and stuff. So at one point he was this young child and everyone had high hopes from him and everybody loved, and that's usually what it is for a lot of kids and stuff. But then the world and the environment and shit shaped him into this person. So, that boy that you love turned into the man that you fear. Like he's a hated icon. He's like the Antichrist as far as everyone is concerned. I have it all and I have no choice but to. I'll make everyone pay and you will see. You can kill yourself now, but you're dead in my mind. The boy that you love is the monster you fear. So it's kind of like in my mind going, he's a little bit, everything's too far. Like even if things changed or whatever, he's on his path. He's committed. Things are going to go down the way that he wants them. And even if they die, they can't escape his wrath, which is an interesting idea. And then it kind of goes on and he just describes more of this like he feels like there's some darkness within himself with other people and like the situation. He's kind of acknowledging the role that he's become and almost the heavy weight of it. Like Like it's got it just really, but it, like what's really interesting about this song is musically it's this somber, dark, calm. Like it's not heavy. It's like just you really feel his pain and his sadness. Like at the end of everything, at the end of all of these things, he's just a broken man hated by everybody that just doesn't he like it's like the man behind the Antichrist Superstar. This is like the Hollywood story special behind the scenes bullshit for this album, but it's such a perfect way to end it. Like even if you create this persona, even if you get your dreams, even if you grow up and become that rock star, you can't necessarily escape yourself or the darkness within you and all that shit. I thought it was really cool. It gets all distorted and weird, and then he goes, when all your wishes are granted, many of your dreams will be destroyed, which is again alluded to like the idea of a parent. You get your biggest wish, you get your kid, and then it ends up, he grows up and becomes Marilyn Manson. It's got to be a bit weird, I give this a 5 on 5. I thought it was a beautiful and fucking amazing way to basically end this project and whatnot.
I agree. I think it was a good like coming down back to reality, right? Because you have this like build up throughout the album, and then you get towards the middle and the song right before that's like, well, like fucking like look at what you did and look at what I did and look at who I am and God and everything, and then no, in reality, it just this is like it's a nice way to end it, contrary to like how I would think it would have ended.
Yeah,
and I think it deserves a 5.
And you, Sydney?
Yeah, I mean, I love this track. Like, thematically, you can really hear the, like, what have I become kind of sentiment going through it. You can really feel that in the way he's delivering it. Kind of like after all the mayhem and all the chaos and the big climaxes happen, right? Like it's that last scene in the movie where he's kind of sitting there, kind of pondering everything that's happened and kind of going, was it worth it? Like, was this something that really needed to happen or should have happened, and was I the one to do it? Kind of like, and you can really, really hear the, like, especially on this track, like you couldn't really hear it a lot before. It would come on later albums, but on this track, you really hear the Bowie influence. Like David Bowie is one of Marilyn Manson's biggest influences, so much so that he based his entire character and the way he dressed for the next album on Ziggy Stardust. And it's the spacey kind of space oddity, weird keyboards and watery production that really hammers that influence home. It's not a song I would listen to every day, but I think it really fits as an outro personally. So it's a 4.5 on 5 for me.
That's fair. The last song we're going to talk about has many names. The one that I saw on Spotify was Untitled. So there were actually apparently tracks 17 through 98, which were but 4 seconds of silence each. And then track 99 would have been this, which is just a bunch of static sounding shit. And it's super fucking hard to hear anything. All the way through the song is this backmask, I'll Mock Your Wealth. That's that weird sound you're hearing in one ear. And in the other ear, he's going, go ahead and build a better Messiah. We can dig another grave. So they're like, yo, try and beat what we've done. Try and do whatever, like it's going to happen again. Almost like life is cyclical. This is your calling. If you were hearing this is something I can do. Something is growing on my chest and I've seen it. It is hard and cold. It's been dormant for many years. Tried to save you, but I cannot come to save you. But this is what you deserve. This is what we deserve. This is something we have brought upon ourselves. So it's like everything Sid just said to describe this project is kind of what Manson's reaffirming here in the outro. And then, we are not a victim, you are not a victim, God will grovel before me, God will crawl at my feet, these are the dying years, etc. And then it ends with that classic line, when you are suffering, you know that I betrayed you. And
Which is, like, you think, like, that's exactly the way it started, right?
Yeah.
Like, it starts with that line, it ends with that line, like it.
And it's, apparently, if you do sync it up, to the very second, it creates one of those perfect loop album experiences. I think it was Beck's album was the last album that we've talked about on this album. This channel that had done that. I gave it a 3 because it's fucking annoying to listen to. But like thematically and from the point of it and for the story, it's cool. It's like the epilogue, and it's a nice one for the story. But man, it's just Trent Reznor's does, like, I don't know. I've seen the bands that work with Trent Reznor at some point do a lot of this staticky shit, and I'm not a big fan of it. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't have much. I'd give it a 4 just because of like what it's there for, and it has a purpose, and it's not some random shit. And I feel like anytime on an album, well, most of the time when there's something like that, it's thought through. And like, if they were to hear you say like why, they'd be like, but you don't get it. So I mean, it's
No, I don't.
it's there. It's cool. It's just the up for
It's
it.
22 years later.
I mean, that's it. It does its job. Like, it ties everything together very well. And there's a lot of different voices that he uses on different parts of the album that come back, which is cool. But would you, like, it's not a song. It's not something you would listen to, like, on the bus.
Is
But
the end of this album.
it is. And it's a 3.8 on 5 for me.
Really?
Yeah.
But why so high?
Because I really like the way that it ties everything together. Like I said it before, this album really works from start to finish as a whole piece. I think in some cases better than it does as individual songs. And I think
Agreed.
that this, without it almost would have felt like an empty ending. Like this really, it's the icing on the cake.
Do you have the version with all the blank songs?
No.
That was the part that I thought, can you imagine, like, just, yeah.
As far as hidden tracks go, I mean, I appreciate it because
Yeah.
it really does add to the overall sense
Yeah, I know.
of completion. Like
It was a fun way artists could troll us once upon a time before Spotify. So yeah, do you have more on this one? I guess that's the end of this review. So for this album, actually, it worked out to being a 4.5 even. I would say it creeps its way into being a timeless classic in my mind, but it is not the best timeless classic I've heard. It is a really, like, I'm happy I heard this album. I kind of wish I'd heard it like a decade ago or two, and I feel like my life would have been probably more cultured if I'd listened to more Marilyn Manson, which is not something many people probably thought anyone would say. But I really dug it. The level of intricacy on this album, the energy. It's jarring the first time you listen to it, but every time you listen to it, it's like this filter gets peeled back. Like they deliberately make it sound muddy so that you have to learn it. You have to pay attention and listen to it. But when you do, you're rewarded with this incredible experience. The story is interesting. The parallels to his life are interesting because it just synchronizes all so well. It's this deeply personal, beautiful project. I fucking really like it and want to hear the rest of the triptych.
I would give it a 4.5 as a whole. I think it really did a good job in terms of with the story and everything, and as a concept album, and it's something that I think I should listen to and I think that had I been in a different phase or like a few years ago, maybe it would have like really gotten to me, but it's great overall.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Like it's not something that I still listen to on a regular basis, but like I respect it for what it is. I don't think you can show this album to an adult and be like, this is going to change your life, because there's a lot of angst and it's really heavy and it's emotionally heavy, right? Like there's a lot of emotions that really resonate with a young, rebellious, angry mind that don't really resonate with an older, calmer, more stable mind, I think, right? But it's really, really well put together. Musically, it's there's nothing like it. I mean, he's never released anything like it since. I don't think anyone else has come close to releasing anything quite like this. So it's really cool in that sense. I also give it a 4.5 on 5.
Yeah.
I think it is a great album to introduce people to hard rock and metal at a young age. I think if you get them at that age, because there's a lot of really, really deep thought that goes into it, which is cool, and you can't say that for a lot of his peers even, right? You can't say that for that this level of anger and this level of darkness, to have that level of sensibility and that level of logic backing it. So yeah.
All right, cool. Well, thank y'all for sticking with us. We appreciate it. It's awesome.
Thank you.
So just before we end, a quick thank you to Mozart, Lindell Williams, and Super Old School 1994, our patrons. And if you like what we do and you want to see us get better shit, like proper gear, you can support us over there. You get to join the request raffle, then you get early access and all sorts of fun shit. We have some ideas coming in the future. If you'd rather just do the normal stuff, you can subscribe if you dig it, like the video if you dug it, but more importantly, you can comment and you can tell me everything we got wrong in the video, everything that we did, why I'm an asshole, all the good stuff that the comments do.
Or reply in my 6-day
answer
window.
it, yeah, and it'll be a good time. So look forward to seeing you there. Let's chat. Let's learn about Manson and discuss him. And yeah, next week we're going to be doing a request raffle, Patreon requested video. So we'll see you there with that. Peace and love in everybody, just like Manson wanted.